8F. It had problems yesterday with a brake issue, which forced it to retire just around here at turns 4 and 5. So if that issue has manifested itself once again, unfortunately, it means he might not be able to take the start properly from pole position. It means that Ollie Webb will be on his own on the front row, rather than having the Fittipaldi alongside him. So that will be a real shame if the Matt Campbell Fittipaldi can't get going properly. Well, let's run through the grid for the cars that we do still have left. So it would have been, or should be, Matt Campbell on pole position then in the Fittipaldi 8F. Instead, it's going to be de facto pole going to Ollie Webb and the Hesketh 308C B. Excuse me. Mike Cancelon then comes next, the race winner from yesterday in the Tyrrell 0102, and he starts alongside his fellow Tyrrell racer Jamie Constable in the 1983 Tyrrell 011-6. Then it's row 3 for Christophe Dansenborg in the Williams FW07 and Jean-Denis Delatraz in the ex-Jean-Pierre Jarier Shadow DN3. We should have Thierry Boutsen, which we do. He's on the grid there in 7th place. And then it's 8th position for the Tiziano Carragati ATS HS1. He should be starting 9th. It looks like, unfortunately, we don't have, for whatever reason, no Michael Lyons in the Mackie, because that had some problems in qualifying and then remanifested the race. Oh no, we do have the Mackie. It's right there. It's just in front. It's just behind Jean-Pierre Jarier. So Michael Lyons is there ahead of Thierry Boutsen, although it should be, Boutsen ahead of Lyons, which should be a bit confusing. So those cars forming up 2 by 2. Are we missing someone in the mid-pack? I don't think we are. No, we're not. So I think we've got Tiziano Carragati in there. 2 cars we don't have also. We have no Anthony Beltoise in the Ensign N173, sadly, to the Vex Ricky Von Opel car. And also looks like the Surtees looks like it's been temperamental all weekend, because we don't have that starting in the race either, the Surtees TS9B with Andy at the wheel. So with Matt Campbell hitting problems, it now means that Ollie Webb has to control the field on his own from the front of the front of the pack. And the surviving cars that we do have will be going for 25 minutes plus 1 lap in their second race of the weekend. So by far the oldest car on the grid, of course, has to be the Hesketh. Well, in this race at least, has to be the Hesketh in the mix. But watch out, of course, for the 2 Tyrrells, particularly Mike Cancelon's car that came strong in the second half of the race. And also keep an eye on Jamie Constable. If he can get that car up and working, one of the most modern cars on the grid, he might well be up there too. So the field makes its way around onto the pit straight to get this second Formula 1 70s race underway. All the camera phones up and ready to go as we get set for 25 minutes of action and thunder here at the Dubai Autodrome. Lights up at the top of the screen. They go out now. The second races go. And they're already going 3-4 abreast down towards turn 1. But on the outside line, Jamie Constable in the green Tyrrell trying to attack Ollie Webb in the white Hesketh, who goes to the middle of the road into the braking zone for turn 1. Steaming down the outside again like he did yesterday goes Michael Lyons past 3-4 cars at once. Already into 3rd place in the blue Mackie. Getting squeezed out wide though is Mike Cancelon over the curves. He loses out to almost everyone to about 5th or 6th position. As now we see Ollie Webb turning his way through turns 3, 4, 5 in the lead from Jamie Constable 2nd place, the fast starting Michael Lyons in 3rd place, the Mackie looking in good shape already, and then we have followed by the Shadow Jean-Pierre Jarier in there too. He's scrapping away with Christophe Dansenborg, and I think also a fairly quick starting Thierry Boutsen too through the banking of turns 8 and 9. Mike Cancelon there chasing after Williams, Thierry Boutsen in there as well, and just at the back of the field is Tiziano Carragati, who pulled off earlier on in the ATS in race number 1 yesterday. The field makes its way down the back straight now, turn 9, down the long run towards turn 10. Once again, like he did yesterday, and almost like he did last year, it's a scrap between the Ollie Webb, who's trying to get out there in front, and now the battle for 3rd is on. There's a lock up there from Michael Lyons, who was put under big pressure into the braking zone of turn 10 by Jean-Denis Delatraz, and now steaming up the inside to get past him is Christophe Dansenborg in the Williams, the Saudi liveried white and green Williams FW07C from 1981. He's made up a place, so that's now Dansenborg up into what looks to be 4th position. But this man, though, Ollie Webb, making up for his mechanical dramas yesterday, but only managed to get 2nd place. It looks as though, sadly, because of Matt Campbell's drama before the race even got started on the rolling lap, I'm afraid it looks as though that his race was done just on the pit straight on the beginning of the rolling lap, which is a real shame, but hopefully if they can even get it fixed or get it pushed off the grid, he can at least get out there and try and get a couple of laps in, if that car can be fixed. So out of the final couple of corners of 15 and 16, across the pit straight for the first time at racing speeds, and it is Ollie Webb who leads the way. already a gap in the start of 1.8 seconds, but he's now being chased down. Jamie Constable in second place, and it's Michael Lyons in third, Christoph Dansenborg fourth, and Delatraz fifth, and Mike Cantelon recovering after a poor start in sixth. Here he goes, up the inside into turn one. Big dive past the ensign, and Mike Cantelon goes up into the top five. So past Jean-Denis Delatraz with relative ease. And Delatraz, was he moving off the road for some reason? He looked like he was going over the curb. So don't tell me that his car's suffering an issue too. Yeah, I cannot see Jean-Denis Delatraz, so I'm afraid maybe there's a potential that the shadows hit a problem. These older F1 cars do tend to be quite temperamental. So even with modern mechanicking standards, sometimes some of the parts just don't seem to want to last the distance. And it looks like, I'm afraid, Delatraz might have hit his own issues at this point. So Ollie Webb then, 1.8 seconds was the gap. Jamie Constable trying to put his foot down to try and chase after him. And then we have in third position Michael Lyons in the Mackie. Then it's Dansenborg versus Cantelon. These two I'm sure will be well acquainted with each other from historic Formula 1 racing circles. So Williams versus Tyrrell now for what has become fourth position. So Dansenborg up now to fourth. Cantelon down to fifth, and Thierry Boutsen, who's having better fortunes at the start of this race than he did when he tried to begin race one yesterday, had a similar scenario to that of Matt Campbell, where his car simply wouldn't get fired up and wouldn't come off the line, and because of that he had to start from the pit lane, but came back out, was a couple of laps down because of it. Big dive under brakes. Matt Cantelon taking the wider approach to get the switchback move on Dansenborg to try and hoodwink him a little bit to try and find a way through, but Dansenborg is fairly wise to it. Now down 15 and 16, this battle will continue to go on. Ollie Webb, meanwhile, past the pits to complete the second lap of the race, followed by Constable in second, Lyons in third, and Dansenborg fourth, being chased down by Mike Cantelon. Then it's Thierry Boutsen, and the last one we've still got running, it appears to be, is the Tiziano Carregati ATS, because, as I say, Matt Campbell's car didn't get in the mix. And here goes Cantelon, as he did before on Delatraz, tries to get the move stuck, but then on the undercut for turn one, goes a little bit too deep, and back through goes Dansenborg to get hold on to fourth position. Looking on screen here, we've got Tiziano Carregati's ATS. These cars started off as being Penske chassis, but then they were redesigned by the ATS team to make them into something completely different. Yeah, the ATS H1, ATS ran a Penske PC4 back in 1977, and for 78 they sort of built their own car based on that machine, and it was the ATS HS1, which is racing here from 1978. We've got somebody who's heading to pit lane by the sounds of it. I think it's possibly Delatraz, I think, by the sound of it, because his car's just showed up as being across the line. So an issue for Jean-Denis Delatraz in the black shadow. Now Cantelon still keeping up the chase here on Dansenborg as they come out of the hairpin at 10, now through 11 over the crest, and trying to keep pace with Michael Lyons, who in turn is trying to keep the chase on for second place on Jamie Constable. But at the moment, it looks as though the 1983 Tyrrell's got the measure of the blue Mackie. A couple of scraps forming here just for on-track positions, and of course for positions in the race. Ollie Webb's gap at the end of the second lap was 2.8 seconds, nearly 2.9, so he's got quite an advantage now. That Hesketh seems to be running at 100% now. Changed a couple of bits overnight and seems to be back to full strength. Meanwhile, Cantelon has got the move done on Dansenborg, so the Tyrrell up past the Williams into third position. So fourth position, excuse me, past Dansenborg. Dansenborg not really showing on the timing screen on the left-hand side, not on the screen here, but he's registering, he's still running, but he's not showing us putting in any laps, so that's quite key. Plenty of people in the grandstands watching on as Cantelon now decides his next target to start charging after, and that will be the Mackie of Michael Lyons, which will be chasing after for third position. Meanwhile, Ollie Webb looking pretty comfortable here, looking to try and replicate what he did last year, which was to take race victory as defending kind of Grand Prix 70s champion at this event. Mike Cantelon in the ex-Michele Alboreto Tyrrell from 1980, run by Front Row Racing, looking to put one right. There's Thierry Boutsen, former Arrows racer himself, and of course he's raced for Benetton with the BMW engines, and then he went through the whole phase of Williams and going through Ligier, and of course ending up his career in 1993 at Jordan, where he stood in for a few races. And then decided to call time on his Formula 1 career, and since then went into touring cars, I think particularly with the Fords and possibly Nissans in more German and Benelux touring cars, and then Of course, was part of the Toyota outfit for 1999 at Le Mans. We had that rather awful accident in the night stint during the Le Mans 24 Hours that year. Tiziana Carregati, I was mentioning at the start of yesterday's race, has a bit of a connection with Jean-Denis Delatraz, which he shared a BMW M3 E30 touring car with him some 31 years ago, back in 1991 at the Spa 24 Hours, and that was quite a connection between those two. So to have them both back on track together again is quite special, as are all these cars here this weekend at the Gulf Historic. There's Ollie Webb, eyes focused as he turns in, working away at the wheel. And for Cantillon, he is starting to pull away a little bit. Now, Matt Campbell's car has dictated the start. It's now in at the end of the pit lane, and the crew are now having a look at the back of the car to see if it's possibly an engine issue or something that's a bit more severe that's preventing him from getting out. At the very least, looks like they've tried to temporarily fix the problem. He's driven down the pit lane a little bit and then realised there's an issue, and the team needs to take a look at it again. I'd love to see the exact gap between Mike Cantillon and Christoph Dansenborg, but for some reason the timing system here is not recognising Dansenborg as having put any laps in. So either they're going to have to count him manually, or I imagine there's going to be a bit of confusion afterwards. But I can definitely tell you that Christoph Dansenborg's White Williams is there, just that the timing screen just not exactly measuring him properly. There's Tiziana Carregati. He owns his own automobile brand, which was launched more than 30 years ago. There's quite a passion for Italian sports cars, including a rather specific penchant for Ferraris. I wonder why. I can't help thinking it's quite a fantastic brand. It's Ferrari, as many people know. There goes Ollie Webb. Gap of the lead is now up to 5.2 seconds, so it seems as though it's working well. Looks like a little bit of smoke from a lock up there, a bit of dust. There's something, I don't know, maybe possibly the harbinger of potential bad news for Ollie Webb, but I could see something that was puffing away at the back of that car. Whether that's just simply just exhaust smoke, or is it the possible development of something a bit more serious? I hope it isn't, but I hope it's just exhaust smoke as he changes through the gears and changes his throttle position a little bit more. Constable in second place now, still keeping the gap to Michael Lyons. The gap between them now is 1.7 seconds. Last time by, Constable was about 7/10 quicker, but Michael Lyons has just set a personal best in Sector 2, but he's been beaten by Mike Cantillon, who's into 4th position. So he's about a 10th or so quicker. As we see now again, Ollie Webb turning back down towards the final corner to complete his 5th lap in this race. I wonder if possibly some of that, what I thought was smoke or steam, might just be some of the dust and the sand that's been collected up on the surface of the track, which can obviously make the circuit a little bit slippery. So Constable versus Lyons, let's look at the gap between them. It was 1.6, it's now up to 1.8. Because despite a personal best for Lyons of a 57.1, he's still a 10th of a second off Constable's time last time by. Carregati, meanwhile, still circulating in what should be 7th place. And I remember yesterday when he was having problems, he circulated for a couple of laps at a crawling speed before he decided to eventually pull the car into the pits and retire from the race, but he decided to soldier on to try and get as much lap time as he could and try and run down the clock as best he could to maximise his time on track. So saw Mike Cantillon there. His Thierry Boutsen, who, as I mentioned, was very excited to get back behind the wheel of this Arrows, and again driving it as if he's never been away from these kind of cars. These guys really are putting in quite the effort. Oops, there's a spin at the top of the screen there. I think that was Mike Cantillon going around at turn 8 and 9. I just saw it right at the top of the screen. There was the Tyrrell rotating at the top of the shot. He's got it going again, and so all the hard work he had of getting ahead of Christoph Dansenborg has now been completely undone, as now the Williams, I would have thought, would have charged back through and pushed Cantillon back down to 5th position. So Ollie Webb then in the Hesketh 308B, run by John Danby Racing. Of course, it's the Hesketh 308 and the B that were designed by the likes of Harvey Postlethwaite to compete in 74 and 75, and this is the car which James Hunt scored his first World Championship Grand Prix victory in the 1975 Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort, where he duelled with all people Niki Lauda. And of course we know what happened a year later when he joined McLaren, and of course as the rest, as they say, as immortalised by the film Rush, is complete history. And it's great to have this car still circulating and still looking just as competitive as it ever was. Last lap for Ollie Webb, 156.3. Okay, to jump Constable. There's a 58.5 58.5 and 58.1 for Michael Lyons. So the gap has come down by a couple of tenths now. 1.4 is the gap. I feel that's a spin, or Tiziano Carregati's ATS is being rather temperamental again, because it did this yesterday when it was crawling around and being a bit sort of intermittent on whether it's fuel pickup or something to do with the engine. Boutsen, meanwhile, is looking pretty comfortable. He's circulating at the moment in what appears to be 6th. Now, Christoph Dansenborg is now showing on the timing screen, but he's showing us some reason a lap down and back in 6th position. I'm pretty certain, but in terms of his on-track position, that's not the case. I think the timing screen's a bit confused by where Dansenborg is at the moment. There is Terry Boutsen taking it a little bit steady in towards turn 1. He's just coming across a rather slightly pedestrian Tiziano Carregati, but either he's just struggling with an issue or just going around at his own pace. He has gone quicker than this, but I'd imagine the Formula 1 car, with enough grip and power you've got underneath you, you might want to go just a little bit quicker. Unless there is a mechanical issue which is hampering him from doing so. Right, there's Mike Cantillon, who looks like, despite the spin, was able to keep ahead of Christoph Dansenborg. So Dansenborg hasn't quite got back through again. He must have been rather amused, I'm sure, at seeing the spin that occurred right in front of him. And realising and wondering why Dansenborg, now Mike was suddenly a few seconds closer to him than he was a few laps ago. So as they turn their way out of turn 12. Cantillon back on his merry way now. His gap now to Michael Lyons is, the last time at the line was nearly 10 seconds. So unless something happens to Lyons, touch wood, I can't see him getting onto the podium just yet, unless he really does push as hard as he dares to get back up there. Another lap completed for Ollie Webb, 7 in the books now, still lapping in the 156s. Last lap was a 56.7, and how great it is with that open cockpit and likes of here with Ollie and Mike here to watch them working away at the wheel of these purely fantastically many analog Formula 1 cars. This is very much a digital and technological based age when the F1 cars of today have got essentially computer screens or tablets technically for steering wheels in some cases, with all sorts of different buttons and switches and LCD and display options that you can go through, whereas these cars, you purely set them up on feedback rather than laptops or trick telemetry systems. It was purely just you came in, the driver said, well, has the change you made to the front suspension work here or there, and they give feedback saying it's got grip here, it's losing time here, it's not getting as much traction here, and just from that feedback alone, they were the proper taskmasters of those who could read a car's setup and work really well. And you got drivers like Niki Lauda and even Alain Prost, who was here yesterday observing some of the action here. Those were the drivers that really, without so much telemetry available, were able to properly feel out what the car could do and just understand what it is they needed and communicate effectively. Senna was another one as well, where he would methodically go through the data and just choose and point out other areas and other points where the car needed to be improved. So Ollie Webb seemingly certainly enjoying himself here, having much better fortunes than yesterday. I'm sure he would have loved to have had Matt Campbell battling with him, but unfortunately Matt's car giving up the ghost before the formation lap had barely begun, which is a real shame, because I was looking forward to seeing how Matt was going to bounce back after these problems previously. It looks as though, of course, that Matt's car's gone back to the paddock, unfortunately, so it looks as though his race is certainly done. There goes Ollie Webb putting a lap on Carregati, who's still crawling round. I'm not quite certain really that there's a clear problem with that car, that he should really be coming in. I don't want to suggest or be impolite when that's simply just him running at a very, very slow pace, but if there is a legitimate issue with that car, he really needs to pull it into pit lane and not sort of trickle around on the racing line and possibly cause an issue for other drivers. Not to put a negative on anything, but it's a case of, if this was main Formula 1, certainly the clerk of the course would be certainly signalling the team to bring him in. But nonetheless, regardless of what it is, Tiziano is still enjoying himself immensely, I'm sure, at the wheel of his ATS, and certainly enjoying the spectacle. That's Christoph Dansenborg. Good to hear from, he was on the podium yesterday, that he was thoroughly enjoying the event, and he plans to be back next year, and hopefully he can convince some of his mates in the FIA Historic Formula 1 Championship to come and bring their cars across, because we'd love to see a few more different makes in the mix, maybe some Lotuses, some Barons, a few more Tyrrells, more Arrow chassis on top of that, and more cars from this period. And who knows, maybe we might get someone who pops up with a Ferrari or two, because we've seen, the Ferrari 333 SP and the Ferrari 643 that's turned up this weekend. How about one or two classical Ferraris from the 1970s? That would be magnificent to see, wouldn't it? To see a few different marks in the mix. I think we were due to have Greg Thornton here this weekend with his Lotus 82, or Lotus 90, his Lotus, but sadly his car not available and unable to make it this weekend. But I'm sure that he will be present, as will many other drivers. And I'd like to think that those who are regulars in the historical circles, like Jamie Constable, Michael Lyons, Mike Cantillon, Christoph Dansenborg, will go back to the historic F1 paddocks and hopefully rave about this weekend and how great it's been to get Formula 1 cars out in the sunshine here in the United Arab Emirates in Dubai, and to get them just in front of some great enthusiastic crowds, and to bring this kind of historic motorsport to a different audience and to enjoy the spectacle whilst they're at it. Ollie Webb still unchallenged in front, 7.5 minutes to go in this second Formula 1 70s race. Jamie Constable still 8 seconds back, and he's pulled the gap out to Michael Lyons by, look at the gap now, that's now 4.6 seconds, so the gap is continuing to increase. The newer Tyrrell 011-6 making the most of this increased grip, particularly because it would be one of the, it's 1983, so I imagine that car will not have had, it won't have most of the ground effect removed from it, because if it ran in 83 it would have had to have a completely flat floor on it rather than the side skirts that came down and trapped the air underneath to make a vacuum that sucked the car onto the ground, so you make full use of the ground effects. Cars like this, for example, of course, it would have had that kind of grip, and I'm certain still does. Under brakes, watching Thierry Boutsen, who again is not going around at a pedestrian pace, and I wouldn't expect Thierry to do so either. He really is giving it as much as he can. Plenty of gusto in this Arrows A3. And I think this is an underrated livery as well, of course, the Warsteiner livery, the gold and black of Warsteiner that was adorning the Arrows for a couple of seasons. This is a wonderful looking car, and it's really is a typical late 70s, early 80s livery, of course, the Warsteiner gold with the black elements of Tyrrell in there, of Arrows as well. Speaking of Tyrrell, this is the Mike Cantillon car, which is still holding on to 4th place. Now, his gap to Michael Lyons has stayed roughly static at about 9 to 10 seconds or so. 10.9 is the gap between himself and Michael Lyons. Once again, looking at Thierry Boutsen as he turns his way into turn 6. And then Michele Retta going through. Now, there's the Mackie. I'm not sure if it's the 101C. It's a different Mackie than we probably would have anticipated was going to arrive here, but it's the Mackie nonetheless, and it's got Mike Lyons at the wheel. Michael Lyons, a very renowned historic Grand Prix racer. I think one of my favourite memories of him was, I think it was potentially a Tyrrell that he was driving for the weekend, but the way he was just dancing and sliding this historic Grand Prix car, the 70s Grand Prix car, around the streets of Monaco, and the way he dominated the race a few years ago. I can't picture exactly which Tyrrell it was. It might have been something like one of the 009s or the 010s that we have this weekend. Certainly that was akin to a Tyrrell of that time, and he really did get the most out of it when he was driving. Speaking of getting the most out of the performance of the car, certainly so is Ollie Webb, who is, I think, just pacing it at a steady enough pace. He doesn't need to push it 100%. He's got that gap of 9.5 seconds or so over Jamie Constable in 2nd place. Doesn't have to stretch it too far. You see Thierry Boutsen turning his way out through turn 14. And, of course, Ollie Webb's experience stretches far and wide also. You think about some of the stuff that he's done on the route that he's taken in his racing career. Of course, he was a 2004 karting champion. He was a BMW scholarship winner for Formula BMW. He ran in Formula 3. He's also raced in Europe. He was the European Le Mans Series champion in 2014 in class. Won the Dubai 24 Hours a year later, and also he's an ambassador for one of the automotive manufacturers out here for sports cars, W Motors. I think the Lycan Supersport or Hypersport car, which is out here. So, and Ollie this season has been back to GT racing, where he's been competing in the Greystone GT McLaren, mostly in GT Cup in the UK, a couple of appearances in British GT2. So it's good to see that Ollie's been keeping his hand in very busy. He does plenty of driver coaching and driver support as well throughout the season, so he always kept pretty busy in the world of motorsport, is Ollie. But even on weekends like this, he's talking about how it's one of his favourite weekends, favourite events already, and it's only been the 2nd running of this event, and he's absolutely enjoying himself both as a whole at this event and also, I'm sure, behind the wheel of James Hunt's race-winning Hesketh. There in the background is Jamie Constable in 2nd place. He comes out of the final corner. That's the Tyrrell 011. And that car, it made its debut in 1981 in the hands of Eddie Cheever. at the German Grand Prix, qualified 18th and managed to finish up in 5th, and it of course has the iconic Cosworth DFV, as I'm pretty much certain all the cars in this field have the DFV engine, because that was the engine to have. If you didn't have a Ferrari, if you weren't someone like a Brabham with a BMW engine or any other potential engine supplier in the mix, you had a Cosworth DFV. It was pretty simple as that, really. And it was an engine that really was so versatile. It was also used in sports cars, and even when Formula 3000 first started in 1985, they used slightly detuned Cosworth DFVs pretty much all round in that championship, before they started moving on to things like different engines. Even then, the Formula 3000 cars, quite late into the 80s, even into the 90s, started using still detuned and derivatives of the Cosworth DFV engine. So you think about the competition life of one particular build of engine, or one specification of engine, the Cosworth DFV. It lasted from 1967, when it was first bolted to the back of the Lotus 49 chassis, and ran in the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort, all the way through to the 90s, when we still had Formula 3000 cars powered by DFV engines or derivatives of them. And it was just incredible how long-lasting an engine it was, how versatile it was. It popped up in several different sports cars as well, in Group C and beyond. So less than 2 minutes to go in this race, and Jamie Constable still in second place at the moment. That's Christoph Dansenborg, who is, I think, now been properly put into his right position on the timing screen. He is now into P5, so that means that's correct. He's where he should be. Remember, these races are 25 minutes plus 1 lap, so even though the timer will certainly hit 0 on this lap that Ollie Webb has just got onto, the time will hit 0, but then when it next time it crosses the line, he will have one more lap time around the 5.3 kilometre Dubai Autodrome GP circuit. The full layout of this fantastic facility. And there's Michael Lyons, hoping to try and give a good result for the Mackie. Turns into the downhill slope of turn 1. Big twitch of oversteer as he got over the curb there, but managed to gather it up nicely. So through turns 3, turn 4, get the car twitching around. Either it's just he's getting off onto the marbles and the dust and the sand offline. He's adjusting his wing mirror as he goes in towards the turn 4. Now, I've also been looking at the backing of that car, because it has been sort of either smoking or steaming a little bit, and I don't want to suggest it's something leaking out the back of the car. If it was, then I think more cars would be going off. But whether he's putting, I don't know, oil, some kind of fluid or on his tyres or water, didn't look like he was going at great gusto through turn 8 and 9 by the looks of it. So I really hope it's not a late issue that's going to put him to the side of the road and cost him another result like it did in qualifying and then in race 1. He really didn't see much of race 1 himself when he went through. I say Tiziano Carugati is still circulating. Fair play to him for doing so, but I'm a little bit surprised that he's not had a signal by the pits or even by race control to either park the car or to bring it in, because he's circulating very, very slowly. Oh no, that's Michael Lyons pulling off the road, so he will not see the final checkered flag. And just as he did in qualifying and in race 1, Michael Lyons' weekend comes, I'm afraid, to a stuttering halt. So the Mackie has unfortunately given up the ghost right at the end of the race. In the pit, I think has now come in. I think finally Tiziano Carugati. I think he's got the message to finally come into the pit lane now, having trickled around for so many. But that's a real shame for Michael Lyons. He deserved a good result after his retirement yesterday, but unfortunately the Mackie did not want to play ball. And he's just looking at the back of the car. You can't lift it, Michael. It's even you can't lift a Formula 1 car. It's way too heavy for you. Just look at the rear wheel, like he's trying to lift it up or so. So that now means that Mike Cantillon, through the process of Michael Lyons' falling by the wayside, has now put himself into a podium place now, rather unexpectedly. He might not see that and might not realise until he gets back to the paddock. But third place for Mike. It'll be another piece of silverware for his weekend here in Dubai Autodrome. Carugati hasn't come into the pit lane. He's carried on past the pits, still at a very leisurely pace. A little bit surprised by that, but each to their own. So Ollie Webb then down the back straight for the final time in the Hesketh. Looks as though he's going to look pretty calm and collected here. He has backed off his pace a bit. He's in the 158s, and yes, Jamie Constable was a 10th quicker last lap, but the gap's 7.7 seconds. He really isn't pushing any harder than he needs to, and that gap is going to stay pretty much safe to the checkered flag, I reckon. Through turn 11, and now down towards turn 12 for the last time. And thankfully, it looks like the Hesketh has played ball this time. No mechanical issues or dramas, touch wood. Remember, I said that Michael Lyons' car was running well, and then he pulled off a few corners later. So I'm wary, of course, of the commentator's curse. There's Mike Cancelon, if you're watching on the screen. Third place for him so far. He'll be happy with that. A win in the third place from a rather tidy weekend. I'm sure he's enjoyed it all weekend long. I know he's been thankful of the team and of the car and everyone that's put it all together. But Ollie Webb, though, will be able to end the weekend on a high after a tough day yesterday that saw him give up the win to Mike Cancelon yesterday. Today, he has been simply untouchable in the Hesketh. He rounds the final corner for the last time. He'll head to the checkered flag, and like he did last year, he will take a victory in the Formula 170s category here at Gulf Historic, up to the checkered flag, and it is victory for Ollie Webb at the Hesketh 308. He wins the second Formula 170s race here at Gulf Historic in the Dubai Autodrome. Second with a flourish is Jamie Constable, arm out of the cockpit in delight. He finishes 5.4 seconds away to round off second place. And for Mike Cancelon, he might only get the message until he comes to the pit lane and gets shown the pit board to say he's third, but he'll turn in through the right-hander to come to the checkered flag. And after winning yesterday, it's another podium finish for the Tyrrell 010. Up to the checkered flag, Mike Cancelon blasts past in third place. Up to the pit wall, he gets the celebration from the crew on the pit wall too. So congratulations to Ollie Webb. There goes Tiziana Caragali, who is still crawling around in the ATS. I'm sure the poor thing will be thankful for a break after being forced around here at some 5 miles an hour. I'm sure it's much faster than that, but even so. So congratulations to Ollie. If you're watching around the circuit, please do give these guys a wave and a round of applause. Give them a clap and give them a cheer because they do deserve it. They put on a great show. Christoph Dansenborg comes across the line. He will pick up 4th place in the Williams. Great job from him, just off the podium, but again, he's loved every second of this weekend too, and what a pleasure it's been to have a Williams FW07C in the Saudi colours here this weekend. And I'm certain, I hope that Christoph and his a couple of other racers who regularly race in the FI Historic Formula 1 circles, I really hope they go off to the paddock and really encourage many more drivers to come along and give this a go, because we really love to see a lot more. And what a great shot that is. Our top 3 side by side down the back straight, all celebrating with each other. Magnificent to see. So there's the classification. Ollie Webb finishes with a victory after his tough day yesterday. Jamie Constable 5.4 seconds behind in second place. Mike Cancelon picks up a podium after his win yesterday. The Christoph Dansenborg in the Williams 4th. Michael Lyons still classified 5th after he stopped with 2 laps to go. Looks like we also saw Thierry Boutsen come into the pit lane earlier on, but he's classified in 6th. Then Tiziana Caragali, 3 laps down, did trickle round to eventually finish in 7th place, and we lost John Delatraz in P8. We also lost Matt Campbell before the start of the race with more mechanical issues, and we sadly didn't have a start from either Anthony Beltoise or Andy Soucek in the Ensign and Surtees respectively. What a great spectacle they've been, these Formula 1 70s and 80s cars, and I'm looking forward to seeing them back again with hopefully even more coming. We'd love to see a bigger and better grid with these cars and more coming along, and hopefully some of the FIA Historic Formula 1 regulars are watching and thinking, I fancy go at that. I quite missed out on this weekend, but yeah, please do. Round of applause for everyone here coming, and please do keep the applause going when they come into the pit lane. Give them a cheer and a wave. They do deserve it. They do appreciate it, the drivers. They really do love being here and enjoying the sun and the heat and the action that's been on track all weekend long so far. Ollie Webb and co give them a wave. Down at the Apex Guard, give them a wave and a cheer, ladies and gents, because they do deserve it. In come the drivers in podium order, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. And here they come into pit lane. If you're watching on the pit straight, they'll probably give you a bit of a rev as they come down. But again, congratulations to our top 3 coming into pit lane now. Ollie Webb, your race winner. 2nd place to Jamie Constable. 3rd to Mike Cancelon. And in they come. Getting the applause from the marshals. We should say a massive thank you to all the officials and all the volunteers, and particularly all of our fantastic marshals this weekend, who in most cases in motorsport, marshals of course around the world do it voluntarily. They do it for the love of the sport. They do it because they're enthusiastic, they love being part and up close to it. And let's face it, without marshals, motorsport events like this and around the world just simply couldn't happen, be it the Gulf Historic, be it Le Mans, be it the British Grand Prix. We couldn't do it without marshals, so a big thank you to everyone, all our Orange Army, particularly everyone who's been out in those orange suits in blazing heat, some kind of late 20s, early 30 degrees. That's not an easy thing to do. Of course, some people are used to the climate, but to do that in sweltering conditions like this, it's a tough thing to do. So mega, mega congratulations to all the marshals for being a part of this weekend, and a massive, massive thank you for being part of it and doing all the hard work that you've done. Really, really appreciate it, of course, from the bottom of our hearts for all the effort that you've put in. So the cars are heading up towards the very special podium setup, where they'll be on the little Champions red carpet, so to speak, and they'll be parking up in front of the stage where our Podium stage presenter will be able to have a chat to them and find out how they found that race, particularly for Ollie Webb, who will be relieved to be leaving Dubai this weekend with a winner's trophy after he missed out yesterday. There is still one more race to come, which of course is the Sports Cars 80s for the Group C cars. That's coming up a little bit later on this afternoon, in a bit of a break before they come in. They'll be racing into the twilight to finish off our racing action here at the Gulf Historic. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And I'm sure we'll get some highlights shortly on the screen if you're watching on the live stream on either YouTube or motorsport.tv. Oh, where we go. So we're heading over towards the podium now, I think, to be able to see what they found of that race. And let's see how our top three coped down at the stage in the paddock.
Afternoon effort, Sunday's effort to win this incredible race. We're just waiting for him to exit the car, to stand up. And you're going to give him a round of applause, of course, because he deserves it. Ollie Webb, once again, a winner in Dubai Autodrome. Fantastic achievement for Ollie Webb. We're going to have a chat with him, of course. He's going to give us his sensation after winning this race, just like he did last year. Ollie Webb, it seems like it was more difficult this year.
Yeah, definitely tougher. We've got some good cars, some great drivers. But no, this one is thanks to the team, because yesterday we had some issues and they spent this morning and last night, Louis and the guys from JDR, fixing this. So it's thanks to them that I was able to do that and started to get a vibration on the last 5 laps. It's the last 5 laps where I was just trying to back it off more and more and more just to keep it on the circuit. So it's amazing to win again here this year.
Can you give us a little bit of the catalogue of differences between this car and the cars you race, you mean in modern motorsport? What are the differences, the main differences, Ollie?
The main difference is, well, I guess it looks like it's got a load of wings, but they're mostly aesthetic. The mechanical grip in this car is unbelievable. It's obviously got a lot of power, but it's like a big go-kart, really, really fun to drive. It doesn't quite have the ground effect that the modern cars do, so the car moves a lot more underneath you. Of course, it's a H pattern as well. First gear's in the wrong place, so it's all a little bit different. It's an extra pedal in the pedal box, so for us modern drivers, it's a bit different to get used to.
It looks like it's easier to make a mistake, indeed.
Yeah, exactly. It really favours a driver that can drive a few different cars. But that's why I enjoy it so much, because it's a new challenge.
Hannah, can you explain the legend around this car, the Hesketh 308, and the whole Hesketh team at the time and his driver James Hunt? How can you explain such a legend?
Yeah, it's incredible. When I first got the opportunity, thanks to PB and Fred, to drive this piece of history that won in Japan, James Hunt's first win, his original car, and to be a British driver that I also look up to, it was an honour to drive the first time. The first time was more just looking after it, and now I realise I had some competition out to push it a little bit harder, so I'm enjoying it every time I get in more and more.
Fantastic. What do you think of this driver, ladies and gentlemen? You like Ollie Webb? I am sure you do. That's fantastic. I guess we have your best opponents maybe around to organize. Yes, I know they are here. So we're going to have a podium ceremony, which is always a very joyful moment. So we're going to celebrate on the podium now. So of course, we will begin with the third classified drivers. After a late move, he finally claimed third position. This driver, who is going to join us on the third step of the podium, it's the winner of yesterday's race, and this guy is Mike Contillan. Thank you, Mike. Once again on the podium, this time on third step, but great effort because it was quite hard. You started from far back. Yeah, you did a great job. Thank you, Mike. And on the second step of the podium, this driver who brought to Dubai a Williams FW07, Alan Jones, former world champion driver who drove this car. He's happy, he's got a smile on his face. It's Jamie Constable. Congratulations, Jamie. What a nice way to second place you produced today. And our winner, you know him, of course, because he parked his car just in front of you. it's Oliver Webb. That's fantastic. Congratulations to you guys, gentlemen, for these magnificent drives around the Dubai Autodrome. So now to present the trophy for third position, please welcome Pierre-Brice Menard, Managing Director of GP Extreme. This guy is a very important person this weekend because he organized so many things to make this event a success. So thank you, Pierre-Brice Menard, for presenting the third place trophy to Mike Cantillan, the driver of wonderful Tyrrell 010 ex-Michele Alboreto. And to present the trophy for second position, please welcome Romain Bruer, CEO of Adamas Capital, for your asset management, your risk management. Thank you, Romain, for being with us and present the trophy of the second position on the podium for Jamie Constable. And to present the trophy of the winning driver, please welcome our friend Fred Frassien, the founder of GP Extreme. Thank you, Fred. Without you, we wouldn't be here today. Thank you, Fred. So Fred presenting the trophy to our winner today, Oliver Webb, a driver of this wonderful FK3082. Yes, you can make the best use of these bottles now. Thank you for the shower. Incredible show. Thank you so much. Yes, you need a good... It's cool, huh? Yeah, tea. You can put your tea bag in it for sure. Thank you so much. You really need to drink, huh, Mike? So Mike and Jamie, maybe we can have a picture of the three drivers on the first step. You can regroup, please, gentlemen. It's always a good picture like this. Under the Dubai sky for this Gulf Historic Dubai GP Revival. What an event. Okay, thank you. I ask you once again to make some noise for our champions. So now Jamie and Mike, we're going to, well, get down and have an interview with you if you agree. Yeah, bring your trophies. You can leave the bottles. Maybe we go there, the other side of the car, okay? So we can see you and take pictures of you. Take care of the front wing. So cute, isn't it? So we start with you, Mike, coming home third with this Tyrrell. So the difference with yesterday was you started from far away, far back of the grid, or maybe a start was difficult.
Yeah, listen, I had the win yesterday. I was so fortunate to get it. Really enjoyed it out there today. Unfortunately, I had a spin, so it's down my own fault. But can I say, once again, a huge thanks to Fred, everyone who organised this event, all the sponsors, and my team, Front Row Racing. It's been the most incredible event, and we'll definitely be back.
Thank you, Mike. That's very kind of you. I hope you'll be back. I wish you to come back. So now we will meet with Jamie Constable. Jamie took his Williams to second place today. Jamie, what do you think? Do you think it's a strong performance, considering that Ollie Webb is a professional driver?
If it was a Williams, I might have had a chance, but it was a Tyrrell. But there we go. No, I had no chance. Ollie just was hanging that car everywhere. He's an amazing driver. It's just nice to follow him. I actually got quite a lot from him on the first lap. There's some lines I wasn't doing that he was doing. That helped a lot. But it's just a wonderful experience. And second year running, I mean, Fred's just a legend. They're putting this on. Every year it just gets better and better. Absolutely loving it. And there's so much fun out there.
Jamie, many thanks for coming, for racing, and for taking this trophy. Thank you so much. We had a Hesketh, a Williams, and a Tyrrell. Not bad for a historic meeting with the 70s, like our main theme this weekend. So, thank you, and you can hear engines roaring, which means that we're going to have another race coming soon. So, bet you'll be loyal to this podium ceremony. To see you in a few minutes, about an hour. Thank you so much.
as he had in race 1 yesterday from Michael Lyons as they headed up through the first few corners. The early challenge there potentially from Jean-Di Delatraz putting the pressure on to the Mackie of Michael Lyons, and this was a battle that was raised early on. This was between Mike Cantillon and Christoph Dansenborg. Tiziano Carragati was a little bit back and forth with his pace and crawled around for the last few laps with what seemed to be a less than 100% ATS. But as for Ollie Webb, from the start he was absolutely untouchable. Great to see Thierry Boutsen getting a clean race in the Arrows A3 this time, and it was quite a lonely race also for Jamie Constable out there, of course, holding on to second place pretty strongly. Thierry Boutsen also circulating in the X. Ricardo Patrese Arrows at his own pace. Mike Cantillon, after a spin earlier on, had to try and recover the pace as much as possible, and he ended up most of the race running in P4 ahead of Thierry Boutsen, who would end up in 6th position in the race. Jamie Constable, meanwhile, was holding station second, trying to keep up with Ollie Webb's pace, but Ollie seemed to be too strong and was able to work his way through the laps as he reeled them off one by one. As for Tiziano Carragati, well, he was just happy to be there and just run at his own pace. As for Michael Lyons, well, he was running fairly strongly in what could have been a podium finish, but sadly towards the end he started to suffer with mechanical issues, and it was here with a couple of laps to go where the Mackie finally gave up the ghost and had to pull off the side of the road, which was a real shame to see after what was a very trying weekend with retirement in qualifying and race 1. But for this man, he was able to replicate the success from 2021 and take victory in the second race to round off a magnificent weekend at Gulf Historic for the Formula 1 70s cars. Congratulations to our race 2 winner, Ollie Webb.
Well, you can do anything but if you go to my blue sweat shoes. You can burn my house, steal my car, drinking my liquor from an old fruit jar. Do anything that you wanna do, but oh honey, lay off of my shoes and don't you step on my blue sweat shoes. Well, you can do anything but if you go to my blue sweat shoes. Come on, Stoya. You can knock me down, step on my face, slam my name all over the place. Do anything that you wanna do, but oh honey, lay off of my shoes and don't you step on my blue suede shoes. Well, you can do anything but if you go to my blue suede shoes. One more time for you. The show, let's get ready now. Go get home, but don't you step on my blue suede shoes. Well, you can do anything, but if you go to my blue suede shoes. Blue suede shoes, blue suede shoes, baby. Blue suede shoes, yeah. Blue suede shoes. Well, you can do anything, but they offer my blue suede shoes. Last night I dreamt of San Pedro, just like I've never known. I knew the song, young girls with eyes like the desert. It all seems like yesterday, not far away. Tropically island breeze, all of nature wild and free. This is where I long to be, La Isla Bonita. And when the summer play, the sun will sit so high, ring through my ears and sting my eyes. Your Spanish lullaby. I fell in love with San Pedro. Warm wind carried on to me. He called to me. Te amo. I pray that the days will last. They went so fast. Tropically out in breeze. All of nature wild and free. This is where I long to be. La Isla Bonita. And when the summer plays, the sun will sit so high, ring through my ears and tease my heart in Spanish lullaby. I want to be where the sun warms the sky. When it's time for siesta, you can watch them go by. Beautiful faces, no cares in the world. When a boy loves a girl's last night I dreamt of San Pedro. It all seems like yesterday, not far away. Tropically iron winds, all of nature wild and free. This is where I long to be, La Isla Bonita. And when the summer plays, the sun will sit so high, ring through my ears and sting my eyes. Your Spanish lullaby. Wild and free, this is where I long to be, La Isla Bonita. And when the summer plays, the sun will sit so high, ring through my ears and sting my eyes. Your Spanish lullaby. La 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 la. Thank you. She was more like a beauty queen from a movie scene. I said, oh my, but what do you mean? I am the one who would dance on the floor in a round. I am the one who would dance on the floor in a round. She told me her name was Billie Jean. She crossed the scene, then marry her dance with eyes that dream of being the one who would dance on the floor in a round. People always told me, be careful what you do. Don't go around breaking young girls' hearts. And mother always told me, be careful who you love, be careful what you do, because a lie becomes a truth. Yeah, Billie Jean is not my lover, she just a girl who said I am the one, but the kid is not my son. She said I am the one, but the kid is not my son. For 40 days and 40 nights I was on her side, but who can stand when she's in a man? Her schemes and plan. Because we dance on the floor in a round, baby. So take my strong advice, just remember to always think twice. You think twice. Ooh! She told my baby dance the tree. She looked at me, then showed a photo. Baby cried, I swear like mine. Because we dance on the floor in a round. People always told me, be careful what you do, and don't go around breaking young girls' hearts. And she came and stayed right by me, just a smile of sweet perfume. And this happened much too soon, and then she got me to her room. Yeah. She said I am the one, but the kid is not my son. Billie Jean's not my lover. Billie Jean's not my lover. Billie Jean's not my lover. Billie Jean, not my lover. Billie Jean is not my lover. All right. All right, we're going to slow things down a little bit. If I should stay, I would only be in your way. So I'll go, but I'll know I'll think of you every step of the way. And I will always love you. Will always love you. You, my darling, you. Bittersweet memories. That is all I'm taking with me. So goodbye. Please don't cry. We both know I'm not what you need. And I will always love you. Will always love you. I hope life treats you kind, and I hope you'll get what you dreamed of. And I'm wishing you joy and happiness. But above all this, I'm wishing you love. And I will always love you. Thank you.